Ready, set, go.
Hello, and welcome to what is going to be a very, very special video that I have been quite excited to make. It's going to be a unique album video. I don't know if I would call it an album reaction, because you're not getting my first reactions to any of this music. This is an album that I am intimately familiar with because it's my band's music. We're going to be listening to our debut album, Graveyard Smash, by ROUGAROUX. Came out at time of recording just this past Friday. Last Friday on April 11th? Yeah, April 11th. We just had our big album release show on Friday. It was a great time. If you're watching this and you came out to the show, thank you so much for showing up. It was great to see the turnout that we got for what was our first show in several months. And also as somewhat of a new iteration of the band. But I'll get into that in a little bit. As I mentioned, this is not going to be an album reaction. I've listened to this music. I've been playing this music. Some of these songs I've been playing pretty much since we started as a band. So this is going to be more of a commentary, somewhat, not quite analysis, but commentary and retrospective almost on the album, what it's about, what it was like making it, what it was like to make an album on a pretty limited budget. There are various production circumstances for different parts of the album. Different parts of the album were recorded in different places, mixed by different people. Some roles in the band changed over the course of making the album, and I'm going to talk about all of that as best I remember to as we go through it. We've got a total of 10 tracks to listen to, but it only caps out at about 36 minutes. We wanted something that was nice and tight and concise to really encapsulate the era of the band that you will find in this album. We're a different band since we started making the album, and we wanted to put out a collection of songs that reflect what we were making when we were the band that we were at the time, if that makes sense. While this is not necessarily, I don't think this album is on Genius. I'm going to be looking at all of the lyrics via our Bandcamp, which, if you weren't aware, best way to support bands if you want to buy their music digitally, one of the best, most direct ways is to go through Bandcamp. Spotify and Apple Music and all those streaming platforms are great for exposure and accessibility. It's great for people to just have our music on demand, and they can listen to it as much as they want and enjoy it as much as they want and grow in their love for it. But you can't pay your bills with exposure, as they say. So if you want us to actually make music or make money with our music, buying the album via Bandcamp is one of the better ways to do that. I will leave the links to Apple Music, Spotify, and Bandcamp in the description of this video. I'm going to put the Bandcamp one at the top, though, because, again, that's the one that I would more recommend if you want to support us as a band. But with all that said, I'm going to get into the album. I am going to be doing some lyrical analysis of these songs, we had a whole like album treatment, like concept proposal written up for grants and things. So any insight into the songs, we're gonna be looking at that, which was written by our lead singers, George and M. So yeah, I'm gonna be referring to that. So you're getting it straight from the punk singer's mouth. Let's get started with the first track on the album, titled Mean Well. There's Clay. It was Adam on the keys. There we are. And here I am. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite parts of the album. We got the triplets. You think I'm gonna be in a band myself and not put in like a triplet breakdown? What do you think I am? Some kind of guy with restraint, with self-discipline? No, I'm gonna put the things that I am a sucker for in my music. And by my music, I mean collectively ROUGAROUX'S music. Oh my goodness. This is one of my favorite tracks on the album in general. It's so cool. It's such a striking like introduction to us as a band. Yeah, you get more and more of an idea of what kind of stuff we can play as this song in itself gets further along. I am gonna still be editing this in the same way as my standard album reactions. I really hope I don't have to worry about getting copyright stuff, considering I helped make the music. But just for brevity's sake and for the sake of pacing, I am still gonna cut between different parts of the song. If you want to listen to the whole thing through, you should just go stream it. You should just go do that. Okay? Just go listen to the album. If you want to hear the whole album, you should go listen to the album. And then if you want to come back, you can either watch this, get an idea, get some impressions of what to look forward to, and then go listen to the album all the way through, or you can go pause this, listen to the whole album, come back, and then you can hear my commentary, my thoughts on it. Entirely up to you. I'm making this in my own present. I don't know what the frick you're gonna do. You do whatever you want. Just so we're aware of who's playing what, we've got George on the vocals for this one. We have Clay is our bassist. You may remember Clay from when I played BioShock a little while ago. We had Clay in for that. We have my friend Adam on keys for this one. M, who has been on the channel many, many times, on rhythm guitar. And then my older sister, Cam, was lead guitar for this particular track. Cam was our lead guitarist for most of our time. Partway through the making of this album, she ended up having to step away from the band. She's just her life path is taking her in a different direction than the band is going in. Pretty much for all of the tracks that we recorded post Cam's departure, Adam has stepped in as lead guitarist, and I'll point out those tracks when we get to them. But for now you know who's playing what. Me on drums, obviously. I love playing this stuff. It's so like stompy was the first word that came to my mind just now. I'm kind of ripping off, for this next section at least, I'm ripping off a drum beat from a Muse song. I think it was Unsustainable from their Second Law album. I believe that's the track that has the same beat that I remember hearing that and thinking it would fit into this song. So that's where I got that from. Yeah. Woo! That's screaming. Such a fun fill to play. And bring it back home. Yeah. And then it just kind of let the noise wash it all out. You'll hear a lot of noise in this album. Leave those keys. Nice. All right, so that's Meanwell. That's sort of the first introduction. I don't know if you've ever listened to our music before. That's kind of what we sound like. The next song on the album is gonna sort of be the other side of the spectrum of rock music that we play. This is much more like psych rock, metal, prog rock kind of world. The next track is a little bit more straight punk. And then we kind of dance between those 2 points over the course of the album. But for now, Meanwell, according to George, who George wrote the lyrics for this song. We're one of those bands that very much we write songs by jamming, and then George just sort of writes lyrics in their own time, finds the right time to put those into certain things that we have come up with while jamming. A lot of this album was written via just playing around, jamming out for a few minutes, saving and trying our best to remember what sounded cool and constructing that into a song. And this is one of those tracks. Oh, I forgot to sort of give the whole like overview on this album, because we do have something written up for this album. It's not a capital C concept album, but we did manage to put it into kind of a narrative over the course of the album. There is a bit of a narrative arc to the album, but it's not necessarily an album of lore per se. It's an abstract narrative about a person. The description puts it better. Finding joy and love through existence as a queer person is itself an act of resistance. Queer joy rejects colonial values and ideals on what gender is, on what it means to be alive. The same is also true of the many equity-seeking groups we find ourselves a part of, and these things all intersect. This album is a coming of age and a finding of the self. We start in a place of fear, anger, and isolation. We end on a high note where the theoretical self-insert protagonist looks themselves in the mirror and is able to find joy in what they find looking back at them. We go on a journey as the listener through an emotional roller coaster, feeling the rage, the grief for what could have been, and ultimately the joy found in creating a life that feels authentic. That first paragraph is very much relevant to a lot of the lyrical themes that we're going to be finding in this album. It is very much about the queer experience. I'm the token cis guy in the band. Everyone else is either trans, non-binary, maybe use they pronouns in one way or another. I'm the only one that's using the pronouns I was given at birth. I keep checking every now and then in my life if I feel like I need something different. Keep getting the same result back. So yeah, I'll let you know if that ever changes. Until then, meanwhile, according to our analyses, this is a sensory overload put to music. Many of us exist as neurodivergent and experience panic and meltdowns as a result of this. This song has chaotic energy, stops and starts, changing time signatures. It doesn't have changing time signatures. It's got some polyrhythms in it-ish. We've got like some 6/8 happening, but it feels like 4/4. It sonically represents the experience of having lost control of one's own body. This album starts at a low, at a place of emotional darkness, despair, and helplessness. How better to represent that than with a panic attack? Everything is falling apart, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, sensory overload, sensory overstimulation is very much what we're looking at, especially as we get into the lyrics. And this sensory overload is bringing up a lot of, as panic attacks and breakdowns often tend to do, little mundane things that trigger it bring up much bigger, more significant and profound things that are always simmering underneath. Lyrics, one of the shorter ones in the album. First verse. We are not a band that feels particularly obligated to hold to a strict song structure. There are some songs on this album that do follow the verse chorus bridge kind of format. This is not one of them. First verse. I need less sound. Please. I feel like I am dying. I need less sound. My ears have begun bleeding. There's a conversation in the next room, and the sound of the rain with a crunch, and the clink of ice in your glass. So that's just kind of, we're sitting there just about to lose it. There's a lot of sensory, factors that we're noticing, and maybe noticing more than we want to. And it's getting to you. It's little things, but they're getting to you. Second verse. How deep does the human body need to dive before the pressure of the ocean is enough to make my vessels burst, and my skeleton collapse, and my lungs deflate, and for the will to live to float out my mouth as tiny dark bubbles? And then they repeat, tiny dark bubbles. This is the breakdown. This is not the musical breakdown, but this is the emotional breakdown. This is, how do I stop having a body? Because my body is causing problems and I don't know how to deal with them. How do I just stop it? It's dark. It's very dark. But it's honest, which I think is one of the appeals of our music. And then finally, the last bit is, don't touch me. I know you want to help. I know you mean well. Sometimes when you are a person that experiences overstimulation, sensory overload, breakdowns of whatever kind, panic attacks, you name it, sometimes the people in your life try to help you out, but they don't know how. And so sometimes in trying to help you, they can accidentally make things worse. Maybe they try and give you physical affection. Maybe that just overloads you more. And when you're having these breakdowns, it's really difficult to communicate yourself properly. And so saying something like, "Don't touch me, I know you want to help, I know you mean well," is often the most we can get out while we just kind of ride that shit out. Funny thing about, writing songs about sensory overload and overstimulation, I wrote my own set of lyrics to be put into a song that also had to do with overstimulation and just the idea of this little sensory thing that won't go away, that just fully unravels me. And in the same way, it's hard to communicate that experience. It's hard to communicate that in a way that's actually helpful. And so sometimes you just have to let yourself not be helpful, You don't always have to be perfectly eloquent in communicating your problems. You can just let yourself have a bad time. And with that, we're going to keep moving. Track number 2, Panic Room. This is one of our oldest songs, if not our oldest song. We have had this song in the catalog for pretty much as long as we've been a band. Meanwhile was recorded at our house, in our garage, mixed by Cam. This next one was recorded at our friend Riley's studio called Chom's Studio, or Com's Studio. So this next track was recorded while we were a 5-piece earlier this year. So this is going to be Adam on lead guitar, no keys. I love this song. Fun thing about those snare and tom shots, that's one of the newer choices that I ended up putting into this song. We have a recorded version of this song on our first EP that we released in 2023. That kind of reflects the earliest version of this song, and in the meantime, we've all gotten better at our instruments and have made some slightly different, I would say better choices to the song. Yeah, maybe if you want to go check out the original version of Panic Room, feel free to do that. The music is out there. I think this is a better performance of mine. I was not playing to a metronome the first time around, and I am in this version. I learned to play to a click over the course of making this album. So there's a few tracks where I am playing to a click. There's a lot of tracks where I'm not. I was not playing to a click on Meanwhile, but I was playing to a click on this song and the next couple ones. I'm glad that I have that skill set. Obviously, should I have learned it sooner as a drummer? Probably, but here we are. And it's nice to hear the improvement.
Keep that skeleton in the closet. After all, no one would want it. It's what you deserve. You're a scared little kid, afraid of getting hurt in the process of
This is one of the things that I learned quite quickly during the recording process, is truly how different things are going to sound in a recording studio versus live. One of the things that I really had to get over when we were recording is the fact that things did not sound how they did live. Some of that is circumstances of we only have so much of a budget, so maybe if we had a little bit more cash to spend on a recording space and having a longer mixing process, maybe we could get it sounding a little bit louder. That was something that I had to just kind of reckon with, is that when I'm playing this live, those cymbals are way louder. This is a much more thrashy breakdown live than it sounds in this. I like how it sounds in this. I think this is it's a different feeling, but I think it still works for what the song is about. As is usually the case, you're going to get a different experience from a live performance than you would a refined, mixed and mastered recording version. And that's something that I, as a musician, kind of had to come to final terms with. But double time was also a newer choice. This used to be halftime. I'm doing that sort of like Motown. And then it goes into the straight. Yeah. And then, yeah. And then we just kind of slip into kind of 6/8. This is. That's probably one of our sneakier time changes in the album. Some of the ones that we do, there are other time changes that we do in the album. But I think that's one of our most seamless. Because nice thing about 6/8 is that it still fits nicely into 4/4. It's a very, very comfy polyrhythm to maintain. Main thing about 6/8 is it's very much like sort of got that like triplet swing feel to it, very pirate rock kind of feeling. But it is technically I am playing a different time signature. It's just more triplets based.
It would be easier. Yeah, it would be safer. I want to be
This part, drumming wise, is the same that it's ever been.
Think about the consequences of lying to yourself again. No, it doesn't matter who approves of it. It's not a choice, but you have options. That skeleton is coming out of the closet. After all, the world wants it. It's what you deserve.
The like slightly offbeat snare hits, so like do 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 ga do do do. That actually came about from the first version of Panic Room, where I used to just be playing just straight halftime, just like do do ga do 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 ga, and I made a mistake, and I ended up just, in order to keep up with the time, I just threw a snare hit in just a beat slightly later, and I liked how it sounded, so I decided to just commit to that for the whole thing, and I am very, very glad that I did. I think it sounds pretty cool. Getting a little swingy there.
Together from pieces.
Nice. Nice clean end on that one. One thing I noticed playing our show is that a lot of the songs that M leads all have these like stop, like very snappy endings. I didn't notice it until we played through the entire album on Friday, but like almost all of the songs that were written by M and that they usually lead, she does this like hard end, either because she originally wrote it that way or because one of us decided that it would sound cooler to end it that way, and it just ended up becoming this thing where all of M's songs have these very definite ends, as to whereas a lot of the George-led songs have a little bit more residual fallout. So that was Panic Room. Love this song so much. It's so much fun to play. This one, if you couldn't tell, is sort of the panic in the Panic Room is about coming out. I think when M first released it, it was about coming out as bi, or coming out as bi. In the meantime, since she's come out as trans, it also sort of works into that context as well, that subtext. And it's just kind of always been about kind of working through that fear and working through some of the unfortunate conversations that one can have when coming out to family members or people that just don't really know how to respond to someone coming out and don't know how to support you in that. Our little write-up here is: the experience of coming out as queer is terrifying. If you're lucky, you have supportive friends and family there to catch you, but in many cases, you don't know how someone will react when you tell them you're coming out of the closet. The song is about that anxiety, or more specifically, feeling like you've come out to someone and because it went poorly, you had to shove yourself right back into the closet. All of a sudden, you're left with this dirty secret, wishing you were different and that you could live a normal life, choosing to deny your true self because it would be less scary than having to go through the trauma of coming out to people who don't accept you all over again. However, staying in that place doesn't fix anything. It's a well of panic in its own right. It's a panic room, you might say. The writing is on the wall. You can't look away. You wrote it yourself. A bloom of hope is waiting for you when you make the choice to move forward in spite of fear. And so the song ends with an alternate version of the hook, or the chorus, giving a positive spin where pieces are put back together again. This is lyrically one of my favorite songs of ours. I would say this is sort of our first hit. This is one of our first songs that got really popular and really seemed to make an impact on the people that liked it, which is, as someone that's just kind of in the band and a part of this project, it's so cool to be a part of something that has that effect on people, that gives people hope and inspiration and courage, especially in times like these. It's very, very exciting that I get to say that I have been a part of this. Lyrics. Oh, we got some dense, some thick lyrics in this song. Verse 1, I have a secret. Most of my friends already know. I thought I didn't need to keep it, but now I'm afraid of letting go. Into the chorus, I don't want to be the way I am. Wouldn't it be easier? Wouldn't it be safer? I don't want to be the way I am. Wouldn't you be fine being something else? Think about the consequences of lying to yourself like this. Oh, God would not approve of it. You have a choice. Yeah, you have options. Keep that skeleton in the closet. After all, no one would want it. It's what you deserve. You're a scared little kid, afraid of getting hurt in the process of having his heart torn into pieces. Torn into piss. So yeah, that's the chorus that we're sitting with for most of the song, is this space of shame and anxiety and some regret in there. of just being like, this didn't go well and somehow it's my fault. And I wish I could take it back. But also taking it back means denying that part of yourself that you know is there. Second verse, I'm in a panic room. The blood on the wall spells out my doom. I could just look away, but my trembling hands are still bloodstained. That's the writing on the wall that we were talking about. And this truth that you're trying to ignore just for the sake of your own, what you think is for the sake of your own sanity, but you're actually putting your sanity at greater risk by staying in this space than if you simply go through the potentially unpleasant experience of living authentically and not hiding who you are. So then we go through another round of that first chorus, and then we go into that 6/8 jam, and then the final chorus. I want to be the way I am. It would be easier. It would be safer. I want to be the way I am. I wouldn't be fine being anything else. Think about the consequences of telling yourself the truth like this. It doesn't matter who approves of it. It's not a choice, but you have options. This skeleton is coming out of the closet. After all, the world wants it. It's what you deserve. You're a grown-up now who can take joy in the process of putting a heart together from pieces. This is one of my favorite, lyric sections that I think we've written as a band. Full credit to M. That particular section is a great thesis statement for this whole album. We get the answer right in the second song, but we still have to really flesh it out through the rest of the album to really get a sense of what we're about and how this actually gets lived out. And because it is scary and it is complicated, and there are things that come along in living authentically as an openly queer person in the 21st century that you shouldn't have to frickin' deal with, but we do anyway. And that's kind of what that is all about. We're going to keep moving on to track number 3, Fever Dream. This is a George-led track. Was also recorded earlier this year by Riley at Chomp Studio. Musically, this is one of my favorite performances just of my own and for us as a band. This is a song that I get excited for people to hear me play it. This is the one where I'm like, all right, it's time to start impressing people. So that's Adam on guitar. So that whole phrase, so that verse, and then that sort of halftime breakdown, I guess is what you could call the chorus. This is another one of our songs that has a hard time fitting into a strict pop song structure. The experience of playing this, practice, live recording, reminded me a lot of playing certain songs on Guitar Hero, particularly the later ones that are really difficult, but they have little sections that are a bit of a rhythmic reprieve. They're a little bit, maybe they slow down so that you can breathe a bit. This song, Fever Dream, It's definitely one of the most like physically taxing songs for me to play. You can't necessarily hear it super well in this recording. I'm basically keeping steady time on the floor tom, but I'm doing these little triplets throughout, so it's sort of a and then repeat until we get to that nice halftime section, and I can kind of let my wrists relax for a bit before heading into it for another round. The second verse is usually where I have to like adjust the grip on my right drumstick, just to allow myself a little bit more mileage with that hand, because my right hand gets very, very tired in this particular song. But you can't get too tired or tense, or else it starts affecting your tempo. Oh, I love George's screaming there. The grit comes out really nicely.
Everything looks perfect to memory. The rest is in the spirit.
Oh, more triplets because it's me. And then one of my favorite parts of the album is this walk up. And we're speeding up a bit. And then into the main riff. Get that kick in there. This is also a part that hits way harder live. And we're back into it. So, fun fact about that walk-up. Not only is that a cool little, like, weird, like, proggy speed up, that is a tempo change. We go up from the first half of the song is 160 BPM, beats per minute. And then over the course of that walk-up section with the bass and the guitar, we steadily raise it up to 170. And it's 170 from that point to the rest of the song. I'm also playing this a little bit in 6/8. And this bit. Yeah, I love playing that. Okay, and then that one goes straight into the next song. Fun thing about this one musically, this is definitely where some of the other elements of other rock genres other than punk kind of come into play. Particularly, this one was very, very like Black Sabbath inspired. A lot of that rhythmic stuff was figured out by Cam. It's so Black Sabbath-y that when we would play this live, we would start it off by covering the first like a pared down version of the intro to War Pigs. So it would basically go all the way up to the poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah. And then the Oh Lord would be me doing that snare roll that you hear at the top of the track, and then we go straight into this song. So that's kind of what we were going for musically, is very much the sort of like punky Black Sabbath feel. Love playing the song so much. It tires me out but I love playing it. Especially once we get to the jam time at the end of that last verse is one of my favorite just sort of like band moments, because we all just get to kind of jam out on a very, very fun sort of ride to line, or line to ride. Thematically, let's take a look right up for this. This is a song about the complicated feelings that come with watching a parent age, especially one who didn't treat you well. The feelings of anger and sadness meld together with an idealized dream of how childhood could have been if only things had been better or safer. We've moved from a place of chaotic anger that has no mooring in reality to grief for a life that could have been. Suddenly, all the angst and confusion about being alive has found a place to exist. The unruly nature of it all is stuffed into a flesh and blood human form, and it feels bad. The family unit we're given at birth rejects us, and we are left to sort out this existentialism on our own, trying to carve a path for ourselves in a world that doesn't want us to be there. So, pretty complicated emotional place. We got first verse. I am waiting for you to die. I am watching your skin melt off your bones. I thought I had 10 more years. Hey, what do you say? Let's go to the lake after I get off work. Yeah, let's go to the lake. We can bring the dog, wash off all those tears. So yeah, we have that like interplay of like alternating between the actual feelings and the angst and the pain of what this relationship has been, and then you also have this imagined picture of a healthy relationship of what could have been, of like, let's hang out, you and me. Let's go to the lake. We can bring the dog. Maybe this little like lake trip will solve all of the problems that we've had up until this point. Which then leads us to the very, very short verse that makes up the chorus. Everything looks perfect in memory. You can rest easy in this fever dream. So kind of this reflection on nostalgia and the inaccurate picture that it often gives us. And establishing that part of this song, part of the world of this song, is this alternate universe where this relationship was a little bit healthier. Second verse, we have another thing of the waiting for you to die, skin melting, 10 more years. Then we have sitting at a park bench on top of the hill. We're back at the park. Get back together with your boyfriend. Yeah, that's what you said to me then. Yeah, you're right. It was never abuse. He's just got a funny way of showing he loves you. So yeah, we're placed back in this fantasy world where we're hanging out at the park. We've got the dog. We're washing off all the tears. And then you just have this person tell you that you should just get back together with your abusive ex, and that maybe he wasn't all that bad. And that, like, the memory of perhaps hearing those words brings you back, snapping back into reality. Final verse after the waiting to die, watching teeth fall out of your face as well, and then the 10 more years. Your sister's coming home from the hospital today. It was all just a big misunderstanding. Everything is fine. Nothing bad happened. Medication works. And the doctor always listens. This dog is going to live forever. Our relationship is stronger than ever. We're full into just like nihilistic sarcasm at this point is what this is. Just this kind of thing of like, great, all right, sure, everything's fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Nothing bad has ever happened or ever will happen. This dog is gonna live forever. And you're kind of lumping in, we're lumping in problems that don't necessarily even have to do with this relationship, this thing of like, medication works. Doctor always listens. My life is fine. My life is perfect. This dog is going to live forever. And we've never been closer, obviously. This is a song that does not necessarily have a resolution in the same way that Panic Room does. We are still earlier on in the album, so we are still stewing in that place of anxiety and existential dread that we have not figured out a way to shirk off quite yet. And hold on to those thoughts, because it's time for track 4, another M-led song. We kind of alternate on this album, titled Wasted, which is, again, musically one of my favorite songs to record. Panic Room, Fever Dream, and Wasted are the 3 like full band songs that we recorded at Chomp Studio with Riley. There's one other song that we recorded. I'll get to that one when we get to it, but that's sort of it's a special one that I'll talk about when we get to it, and it won't be for some time before we get to it. For now, we're Wasted. Ooh. This one's so much fun.
I'm wasted today. I'm panicking here. It's coming out of my ears. My brain is leaking away. I don't want to go home, 'cause I can wash out the taste. It's melting out of my face. Leave me the fuck alone.
We're in 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm back into 4. Woo. There's George. They usually have their own verse. So in the first chorus, I'm playing, it's basically the same beat, like a 4 on the floor, except I'm hitting the kick drum with like every hi-hat hit. So it's this like do-do-goo-do-do-do, do-do-goo-do-do-do-goo-do-do, that kind of deal. In the first chorus, I'm playing with a closed hi-hat and opening up for certain hits. But one of the things that I like to do when I'm, figuring out my parts is I keep dynamics and musical arcs in mind. So I like the second chorus to be a little bit different from the first chorus, especially if we have new information from the previous verse. Which is why in the second chorus, I'm still doing the constant kick hits, but the hi-hat is constantly open, and I'm playing more snare hits, so it becomes a like do do ga do 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 ga ga do do ga do do ga ga, and instead of an open hi-hat, I'm hitting a crash cymbal on those spots. Just my way of kind of escalating things at an appropriate moment in that song. And then there's a little bit of a slow. The bass kind of lags a little bit, but I like it. Now here we are in the bridge / outro. And we're building. Escalating it with those cymbal hits, and then going into the big, and now we're in full halftime. And now we're full blast. we do get a little bit of this. Nice. Oh my goodness. So this is one of our, I guess you would call this one of our newer songs. It's one of the ones that we finished more recently. Fever Dream we've had on the catalog for like at least 2 years. Wasted, I think we started working on around the same time, but we were trying to do things that weren't really working, and I think we weren't musically ready. I don't think we had the musical chops to actually take on the song at the time, so we kind of left it on the back burner for a while before we realized that we were gonna be deep in the process of making an album. And so in the interest of having enough tracks to put on an album, we were like, we should probably get Wasted ready and primed to go. And so we ended up sort of refining Wasted, I would say over the course of like 2024, a little bit in 2023, but definitely one of the more recent songs that we managed to put together. I'm such a big fan of it. Compared to Fever Dream, this one's a breeze to play. Like, even the parts that are in 7, not nearly as strenuous as just playing quick or playing quack, whatever that would mean. Yeah, I love this one. I love just the bursting out of the gate energy that it has. Like immediately hearing that like very aggressive and like overwhelming guitar riff that you hear at the beginning there, and then just heading straight into like full throttle like punk sound. To be frozen with fear is terrifying within its own right. All of a sudden, you're unable to communicate or express yourself, unable to run away, just left whimpering in place because that's all you can do. What if this fear was entirely sourceless? You're stuck in one spot, feeling worse with every passing second, because you know you shouldn't be feeling like this, which only causes it to be exponentially more intense. Everything that makes you a human being has been wasted away, and your brain has turned into mush. It's another song about a breakdown. This one, again, does not fully resolve necessarily, or at least it doesn't, get a peaceful resolution. It's just a capturing of an emotional experience of a lot of the emotions that are bouncing around in this album throughout. We have another song that I have written actually that is also a little bit about a similar thing, a little bit about anxiety and sort of being kept in one spot, being sort of locked in by this anxiety and not being able to do much about not being able to do anything about it. If that makes sense. So keep your eyes open for that if that becomes anything. For now, let's take a look at some of these lyrics. First one, I knew I didn't want to go, but I got dressed up anyway, put my makeup on, and then lit the fuse. There's an atom bomb in my brain. My thoughts begin to disintegrate, and in the fallout, I can't keep thinking straight. Followed by the chorus, I'm wasted today. I'm panicking here. It's coming out of my ears. It being, and the next line explains, my brain is leaking away, specifically out of the ears. I don't want to go home because I can't wash out the taste. It's melting out of my face. Leave me the fuck alone. It's just a bad time. We went to a party that we probably didn't actually want to go to, but maybe we felt obligated or compelled to go because of someone else. Got dressed up, threw some nice makeup on, and from the get-go, things were bound to go wrong. We're just you're going to a thing that you are not in the correct mental state to go to. And as a result, we move into the second chorus. Everything keeps twitching and shaking. I cannot control the flesh that seeks to break me. Hold me, oh hold me. Force my bones back in my body. I'm trying. So now we're fully in the panic attack. We're fully in the breakdown. You can't control yourself. You're shaking. You can't really stop shaking because that's not how that works, unfortunately. You're trying, but you can only try so much. And to a certain point, trying might actually add to the anxiety. At a certain point, you just have to let it write itself out. Bridge/outro. Now I'm convulsing on the floor. Things have not gotten better. We repeat that, and then smashing my head against the door. Don't stop. I'm asking you for more. We're kind of losing ourselves in it now. We repeat that section, and then in the third bit, instead of don't stop, I'm asking you for more, the song ends with please stop. I can't take any more. We've kind of hit a breaking point, it would seem. Speaking of breaking point, we're heading into track number 5, which, due to reasons that I will explain in a couple tracks, this is kind of the midpoint. This next track is kind of the midpoint of the album. We are headed into Abyss, which ended up being one of our other most popular songs. And it's quite different rhythmically than a lot of other stuff. Large amount of this song's, at least musical composition, was basically between me and Clay, our bassist. You gotta have a strong bonded rhythm section if you want to have a good rock band. If your bass player and your drummer aren't making eye contact during, you gotta figure out some different band chemistry. And that looking at each other during is very much encapsulated in this song, Abyss. There it is. The keys. Right. So I forgot to mention, we are now in the earlier, this track was made earlier in the album production process. We were a 6-piece, so Cam was back in lead guitars. This one was also mixed by Cam, and it was recorded in our house. So it was basically just in our one-car segment of our garage. We've got mics, and we had a DAW on Cam's computer. Very, very DIY setup. And yeah, I just those keys. There's a piece of me that's gonna miss those keys now that Adam's not on keys and now on guitar. But you know, these things happen. It is what it is. This is one of my favorite sections. This is also one of my favorite sections to play on the album. This is a part that I get so excited to play because I'm so proud of figuring it out. It's technically one of the trickier bits to play because basically I switch around the way that my hands are sitting. For the first verse, I'm basically doing like a ga, but I'm doing the like steady hits on the rim of the snare rather than the hi-hat. And then in the second verse, I'm doing the same rhythm, but with the hi-hat and snare. And now in the second, what I guess is the chorus, I'm keeping the steady hits with my right hand on the rim of the snare, but I'm using my left hand on the hi-hat to do some weird kind of syncopated stuff. I'll show you here. That's what I'm doing, and it's so much fun to play. I feel so cool doing it. And then this weird shit. And there's Clay. And then we make eye contact. And we get a halftime breakdown. That still is so fun to play. Oh! Cam's playing so fast. The drums are very muffled in this song, and I think in retrospect I might have pushed a little bit more for that change in the mix, but otherwise I think it works. What a freaking banger. Yeah, so musically this one came out of me wanting to inject some different choices from different music genres into our sound. And one of the specific genres that I wanted to infuse in was reggaeton, which has that sort of doom ga ga doom ga 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 kind of rhythm that I think is so much fun and specifically needs to be used in rock, because when you hear it in reggaeton, it's generally a lot more like, not understated, but it's a different feel. It's much more chill generally, but I think that specific beat has so much potential in a rock context. I really, really wish that there were more rock bands that delved into some of those other genres of music that you don't necessarily hear come out in hard rock. That's one of the things that I liked about Sleep Token, is the way that they mix metal with rap and R&B and funk even sometimes. That's one of the things that makes that band so unique and cool, is the way that they take genres that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be combined with like prog rock and metal, but you find a way to make it work. Life finds a way. I think we made it work quite nicely in this song. I love playing that last bit where I'm just sitting there on the ride and the snare just going like ding ga 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 ga, which is very much like a Latin and reggaeton sort of trademark beat. I'm not taking any credit for figuring out that beat. I just was listening to that music at the time because one of my friends was a huge fan of it. And so I heard it via spending time with her. And now we have the song. Let's talk about this in a little bit more lyric sense. This one's a little bit more Anxiety, this one does have a positive resolution. Let's get into it here. Living as a trans person often comes with lots of rejection, specifically socially. This is a harsh outlook over a high-energy dance tune. Now that we're through with the grieving process, we move to picking up the pieces and trying to exist as a whole person with friendships and a romantic life. There are challenges and frustrations present in this change, and in this desire to be part of a social community. Can you fit in? Do people want you there? At times, it feels like your very existence in these relationships is dragging other people down with you rather than you improving your life. It's fraught with rejection and conflict. As the name implies, it feels like falling into an abyss with no landing spot or parachute in sight. By the end of the song, the sun peeks through the clouds and there is hope. This is a challenging place to exist, but the effort ultimately is worth it. The process of healing is worth it. Healing often feels like clawing your way out of an abyss, inch by inch. Together, we, the listeners, in this case, go on the journey with the protagonist, deciding that the fear and discomfort incurred through this process are something that we are in fact able to sit with and move through, similar to the conclusion that we made in Panic Room. We do it with our friends and the people we love and come out on the other side. And that's a theme that you're going to hear a lot of in the later end of this album, is like finding acceptance and self-love via being in community with other people, with other trans people, with other queer people in general. That element of existing as a queer person, of finding people that relate to your experience in one way or another, is so key to surviving in this world at the moment. It's so essential. I cannot stress that enough. Let's get into the lyrics here. First verse. I've been getting intimately familiar with the idea of rejection and all the different little fucked up forms it comes in. Sometimes it tastes like cold November rain, which we get more often than just in November, but November is the month where you might just get rain all month here in Vancouver. November is the one where we just get rain, because it's not quite cold enough to get snow, but it's certainly cold enough to not have sunshine. So, walking down the side streets where everything looks gray, as previously explained. It smells like some drunk asshole pissing in the alleyway, and the realization that queerness is just real fucking lonely. Now, I think we often said when we released the song, because we released this as a single early on in the process, this is not our final stance on the experience of queerness. That comes a little bit later, near the end of the album. We are not out here just saying objectively that queerness is just real fucking lonely. But this is coming from an experience where, because there wasn't that felt sense of community, it seemed as though that isolation, that loneliness, was partly because of the effort of living as an authentically queer person. The band's official stance on being queer is not that it's an inherently lonely experience, but we do acknowledge that sometimes it can feel that way. Sometimes it can feel that way, and I think that's valid, and that's kind of why we write these songs, is so that if you can connect with that experience, then you can listen to the rest of our stuff and find out that not only have we been there with you, but we have gotten out of it. And thus, perhaps there is a way for you as well to find your way out of your own abyss. Moving on to the first breakdown chorus. Who's to say? I'm afraid to reach out and touch, to hold my friends and feel with them. they'll turn to ash and everything will erode. I feel like I am crumbling constantly at any given moment. The floor beneath me will give way and I will drift into the dark abyss. So we have that community. It's right there. We've got our friends, but you're afraid to reach out and lean on them when you need to. And it seems like the protagonist in this case needs that at this time, but they're afraid to, because they're afraid that in that reaching out, they will find out that these relationships can't actually support you, or that these relationships were just a facade, and that in reaching out, you will actually just fall forward into the abyss. Moving into that, we have what might be the chorus? Who the frick cares at this point? Which is, falling doesn't feel like floating, and floating feels more like dying. And I don't know who conflated floating and falling, but I feel like I'm fucking dying. And we repeat that. And then it says, and I'm realizing that queerness is just real fucking lonely. After that, we get the weird, noisy bit. Then we hear Clay's glorious solo bass riff, bringing us back into the light. Speaking of the light, oh wait, before the ray of light, forget about the ray of light, that hasn't arrived yet. During that last breakdown where I'm doing the cool thing with the hi-hat, we have, and nothing matters in this goddamn abyss. Everything I touch turns to ash. It crumbles into nothing, unable to be grasped. Which is more than I could have hoped for. It's more than I deserve. Someone else always has it worse than me. So then in finding out that perhaps, certain relationships have fallen through, maybe things still feel fucking lonely, and you get into this, again, place of shame and anxiety and angst of maybe this is actually what I deserve. Having that community is more than I really should have expected. Being alone is what I deserve, and it's not even that bad. There's always someone else that has it worse, which is kind of a moot point. Yeah, other people are having a bad time. That doesn't negate your bad experiences either. You can have a bad time at the same time as someone else. Doesn't mean your bad times don't neutralize each other. It's just two people having a bad time. After that, we hear Clay's glorious bass, and we hear George just absolutely scream to the gods in a truly astounding performance, and then goes, "A ray of sun is peeking through the clouds. Pull me out of the abyss." We're out of the hole, kids. We made it. Or have we? I guess we'll have to find out, because we're going to keep moving to track 6, which is kind of a transition track. This one is called If I Go Down to 1, It's All Over. This one, I now realize, was also recorded with Riley at Jump Studios. There's one other track after this one that was recorded in that space. If I Go Down to 1, It's All Over is a reference to our first show that we ever played. We weren't even called Rougarou at the time. We were called Goat Rodeo. There's a whole story there. So If I Go Down to 1, It's All Over is basically we were setting up equipment. One of the other bands that we were playing with were setting up their amps, and they think they were doing sound check, and it seemed like they were coming out a little bit too loud, and so the sound person was like, "Hey, can you turn your amp down a little bit lower?" He was like, "If I go down to 1, it's all over," as in the 1 on the volume knob on their amp. And we held on to that because it was just one of the funniest, most true to this pocket of the music industry that we have ever heard, of just being like, I know what I'm supposed to sound like. If you think I should sound like anything else, you're gonna be freaking disappointed. So let's go with If I Go Down to 1, It's All Over, which is a direct transition into the following track titled To the Wolves. There's the noise. Yeah. For the record, while we're listening to this, I know I'm not on time. I know I'm not following any particular tempo or time signature. I know I'm putting snare hits in weird, nonsensical places. It's a weird, freaking doomy transition track that's supposed to feel all like, it's supposed to feel like a hodgepodge. That's what we're going for. And I think we nailed it. If we wanted to play to time, it wouldn't sound like this. But we wanted it to sound like this, and so it does. There we go. Him and Adam just messing around on their guitars. Doing some weird shit with the toms. There we go. And we hear that doesn't quite resolve because now we got. So this was another one that we recorded in studio, and by in studio I mean in the house, and then cam mixed. You're gonna notice that we've got some interesting left-right dynamics going on in this one. This one I think specifically feels very much like a live take. It wasn't recorded as a live take, like we still recorded every instrument in separate parts. But I think just because of the way that it came out, it feels more like just a live recording, which is not a bad thing. It's definitely one of the less polished tracks on the album. I'm not playing to a click on this one, and it definitely would have hurt. It would definitely wouldn't have hurt me too. But the first track I think I tried learning to play to a click was Abyss, and that was a bad first track to try to learn to play to a click to. So I was just kind of turned off of playing to a metronome for the first little bit of the recording process, which, you know, in retrospect, I probably could have put in a little bit more work. I didn't. And this is what we're working with. It's a first album, you know? Those are the kind of things to expect from a first album. I don't trust a perfect first album, and neither should you, especially when it comes to rock music. The song still slaps.
Throw me to the wolves and I will howl along with them. Tell me and I'll fake us.
Oh yeah, and them's are leading this one. Like, it feels like I'm just in the back of a room with the rest of the band. There's a little. I love this part. It's so much fun. This is the thing about composing music for a band like Rougarou. sometimes, and this is also the case with this was also the case with Wasted. Sometimes when you're just coming out of the gate really, really intense, like a lot of the time the chorus is where you go big. The chorus is where you go loud. But since we have a couple of tracks where we're coming in going full throttle, the chorus becomes a really, really good place to kind of tighten up and clarify things a little bit. Especially since the chorus is usually where you are sort of making your main points in the song. And so it's nice for that place to be the point in the song where everything kind of like clears out a bit. Everything becomes a little bit easier to hear. We're still all playing at certain points, but it's not like a wall of sound. We're able to be a little bit more sparse and tighten up. And we do that. We did that with Wasted, and we're doing that with Wolves here. And I'm quite a big fan. This chorus is really, really fun to play. And then we're back into it. And because I'm not on a metronome in this song, hard to say if I've sped up or slowed down between this verse and the last. But whatever tempo I'm doing, I think within its own context, I'm doing all right. Hitting those shots with doing that with an open hi-hat now in this chorus. Back into it. All right. This part is probably one of the most taxing parts of a song that we've ever written. Gotta do that with those quick 8-note build. And then the weird slowdown, which isn't on purpose. Or the halftime breakdown. And Cam absolutely shredding. That feels pretty tight. That's a mistake. That's a straight up mistake. And then this part, where we're just going straight into double time. Actually, this is like quadruple time at this point. But I get to relax by playing a drum solo. Ooh. There we go. Hits hard every time. I do wish that, like, because there's some difference between like sort of recording quality and production budget throughout this album, it was kind of impossible to get like one cohesive sort of like level and sound. So I think that one, I kind of wish that we were able to record in a slightly better space, perhaps a little bit more time and know-how at our disposal. This is one of the things about like being in a band that's kind of still trying to get traction, and like we're not operating with a whole lot of money. Whenever we get to like play in nice recording studios, it's because we got a grant, which is true for the next 2 tracks after this one. The question of whether we were even going to be able to record a full album was not one that had a definite answer, as late as last year. We thought that maybe just to save cost, we release an EP or something of our best stuff, and then later on, if we got more stuff that we want to put out, then we find the time and money when we're in a better place to do that. Like, it's this thing of like, on one hand, This album was not made in ideal conditions, but it was made. We did our best. We were determined to put together this collection of songs so that people could listen to it, because from what we were hearing at our shows, people seem to enjoy it. You know, people seem to want to be able to listen to it on their own time, and we wanted to have something to show for it. We want to have CDs to sell, and we want to have our stuff on streaming platforms, and you can't make that happen if you're just worrying about like making sure everything's going to be perfect. If you're going to wait till everything's perfect, it's never going to happen. So we decided that we were going to be okay with things being a little imperfect, a little rough around the edges in certain parts, if it meant having an album out. Composition-wise, I'm very proud of this music. Like, I am not the kind of person, as you probably know from watching my channel, I'm not the kind of person that gets really hung up on production quality. I think a good song is a good song, no matter how expensive the mics are. It's nice to be able to hear it in a more produced context, because you know that you're hearing it exactly as the artist or the band wanted you to be able to hear it. But sometimes that's just not feasible. So here we are, and I'm still very, very proud of the music that we have written. Anyway, Wolves. This one's lyrically very, very interesting. Another track written by M. How do we exist professionally? Do we market the elements of our identity that belong to equity-seeking groups to have access to better jobs or creative opportunities? We grapple with the concept of assimilation and marketing ourselves to appeal to an economic reality that is ultimately run by white supremacy. Who is the wolf in this song? Is it an element of ourselves that consumes us from the inside, or is it an external force that seeks to bend us to another will? The song ends with a determination to be true to our own identity. By this point, we have fought to exist. We have moved through grief and anger. We have forged a life, a reality, and identity. No one will take this from us, even the wolves. So this one comes from a couple different places of experience, talking about like existing professionally as members of groups that are often seeking equity. Particularly M is writing this song not just as a queer person, but also of an indigenous person. They belong to the Métis Nation, which refers to people of both colonial and indigenous descent, and has its own unique history. And so it means taking up these spaces where, yes, you are a face that people are interested in, but often solely so that those parties can perform inclusivity. Like, they don't necessarily actually care about representing you properly or treating you properly as a member of your demographic. They just want to be able to say that they hired you. And then there's the tail end of that, which is how much of yourself do you compromise in order to pay the bills. That's kind of what they mean by capitalism being run by white supremacy, is that we live in a system that requires certain members of society to deny parts of themselves in order to make themselves seem more marketable. Is putting it very, very simply. For now, we'll take a look at these lyrics and see what M has to say in there. Chorus is, throw me to the wolves and I will howl along with them. Tell me and I'll fake a smile. Today your kind is in style. Moving into verse 1, paint the symbol on my forehead and let it dry so I can bleed out of these hollow eyes and finally cry out to the moon, beneath the sun, beneath the stars, beneath this universe so empty. And I repeat that a couple of times. Yeah, the today your kind is in style is very much one of the key points in this song is like, just for today, it's a good thing that you belong to this group. It may not be a good thing tomorrow because we're not paying attention to you tomorrow, but it just so happens that we are looking to hire diversely and you count. So lucky you, we hire you. We may not treat you very well once we hire you, but at least you got in because of your gender or your race or your neurodivergency or whatnot. This is a point that actually often gets missed by a lot of conservative people when they rag on identity politics, is that a lot of the time, even for like people that are in those demographics, identity politics doesn't do much good. It's for a different reason, but it's one of those things where, like, if we were able to have like a civil conversation without feeling defensive about talking to someone that maybe doesn't believe that you should have the same rights as them, if we were able to, if that were not a factor, an emotional factor, these things might be able to be actually like communicated of like, you're mad about diversity because you don't like people of other races. We get frustrated with diversity hires because often it's an empty gesture. Often it just means that we just want you for your face, but we still have a very specific idea of how you should do your job. And those extra elements of prejudice and empty performative activism are things that are like frustrating to us on the left, but are just like outrageous to those on the right because they're just mad at the surface thing of like diversity bad. But once we actually get past diversity bad and say diversity good, okay, great, but how do we actually do diversity properly and in a way that's actually meaningful? That's the conversation that we're trying to have. But there's a lot of hurdles before we're able to get to that conversation because there's a lot of foundational ideas that need to be laid first. There's also little bits in the second chorus. Throw me to the wolves and I'll haul along with them. Tell me and I'll fake a smile. Today your kind is in style. Then we hear George say assimilate. M sings a face in the product line, self-hate from George, and then something you would dread to find. How much of yourself are you willing to compromise to fit in, to assimilate, which is a very historically loaded word, particularly associated with North American indigenous peoples and also just indigenous nations and the rest of the world in a lot of cases. The idea of denying that part of your identity just to be able to navigate a world where you gotta pay rent. A face in the product line. So you are putting forward that face of you being able to represent your group, but you're only doing it to make yourself marketable in a system that won't actually be doing you any favors based on your background. Then we have the silver screen calls my name. You'll bring me fortune, you'll bring me fame, but nothing is free or comes without pain. Can't help but take a part of my life, gone forever. With a face like this, you belong in heaven. So empty. And then that repeats. Silver screen calls my name. Em and I are both actors. That's how we know each other. We both went to the same acting program, and we've been close friends since. And so both of us have been trying our best in our own ways to find a hold in an acting career. M has specifically been doing a lot more film auditions, and she has an agent, as far as I'm aware still, and she will often, because she has listed herself as an Indigenous actor, she often gets auditions for characters that are specifically Indigenous. The problem with that is there's then the danger of becoming tokenized. Indigenous is not a monolithic culture. When I refer to Indigenous nations, I mean that because there are literally different nations, different countries that, like, different sovereign entities that have lived in Vancouver long before anyone decided to set down concrete here. But unfortunately, all of those different cultures and different expressions of national identity in different parts of a very, very large continent get conflated into a single term, Indigenous, right? You're not Cree, you're not Ojibwe, you're not Silix, you're just Indigenous. And that's the part that is not free or comes without pain. Unfortunately, in a lot of showbiz, it's hard to, you have to like take that part of your life and just hold it out for the film industry to kind of take advantage of. Obviously, there are people in the film industry that are trying to do it in better ways, that are trying to do it justice, that are Indigenous filmmakers that are making some really, really good stuff. But in a lot of cases, it is still very much it's very similar to the history that Asian people have had in Hollywood, where like you get a lot of Chinese people being cast as Japanese characters. You get a lot of, and vice versa. You get Korean people being cast as Vietnamese people, being cast as Japanese people, and it's a similar thing. The only reason that like it feels different is because Vietnam and Japan and China and Korea are still recognized as countries. Like all of the nations that like North America's Indigenous people had established on this continent got like pretty much wiped out or gentrified. That's kind of the real like outrage of colonialism, is that there is this rich history. I can't go. That's kind of that's part of the tragedy of it, is that this rich history that, you know, wasn't necessarily traditionally written down just got like largely wiped out just because of a bunch of like missionaries and colonists that didn't want to take no for an answer when the people that already lived here were like, I think we're doing fine the way we've been going. Just make sure you don't kill the buffalo. Like, it's okay for you to be here. Just don't kill the buffalo. Don't use up too many of the resources at once. You know, there's a way to live in harmony with the world if you want to hang out. And that's not what happened, unfortunately. The bit that sort of builds up into that halftime breakdown and then into the double time. In the woods, beneath the moon, I run from the wolves. That gets repeated a few times. And then in the fast bit, we have let the rain absorb me. Let me melt along with it. And maybe if I'm fucking lucky, I will soon evaporate. I will sink beneath the trees. Let the wolves run over me. So there is this sort of like, it's not a fully answered question of how to like deal with this dilemma that has been put forward. Best thing was like, you're still part of the world. Just let it run over you. Just like, it's sort of a, it is what it is attitude as best I can read. Let's keep moving. We got 3 tracks left. The next one is called T4T. This track and the one after that, we got a lovely little government grant to record in, And so we managed to splurge a bit and recorded this song at Rain City Recorders. Recorded and mixed by a lovely, lovely guy named Matt Roach, who we also recorded our first EP with. Matt's great, really gets our sound and what we're trying to do, and does a great job of making that sound exactly how we try to sound live. Big fan of T for T and the track after, but we'll get to that.
Cause I wanna be safe.
Ooh, more double time.
And you feel safe.
Oh, more triplets, baby. And the shots. And then open hi-hat. A little bit of triplets on the kick drum. And now we're on the ride. Now that part, before we get into this section, because this is quite a bit of a tonal shift, that part I would still consider in 4/4. By the point that I'm doing those constant triplets on the kick drum, it can feel like 3/4 or maybe 6/8, but I'm keeping it on 4 on the ride. So I consider this section a time signature change, even though there's a little bit of overlap between the intro of the song leading up to this bit. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's kind of what we're going with here.
I want to watch the sunrise.
Love this part, it's so cathartic. That scream, jeez. And back into 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're building, it's a long build. A chugging guitar. Cam's on lead guitar for this one.
Being alive is an act of resistance. And they're marching in the streets, shouting truth.
Oh, the shots. And we do some fun stuff with these shots. We're slowing down.
They're marching in the streets, shouting trans liberation. I have been here, and we have been here, and we will always be here, and we will continue to be here. And fuck you very much, Danielle Smith. I am gonna fall in love and make a family, and I am gonna hold my friends so fucking close. And I am gonna make art, and I'm gonna go be on a stage, and I'm gonna be so is every fucking trans person you're trying to wipe off the face of this goddamn planet!
So, not sure if you were able to catch what the song was about. So, if you're not familiar, if you're not super plugged into trans culture and trans vernacular, T4T refers to and this song is a love song. I don't know how you weren't able to catch that. Clearly from the tone and the musicianship and the key of it, very, very clearly a love song. I'm gonna let George speak for this one though. T for T. Community is sacred. Now more than ever, we need to carve out safe spaces for ourselves so that we can live and love and have meaningful lives. This song is all about finding safety and community in a loved one. T4T is a term often used by trans people denoting that they're primarily or solely attracted to other trans people. Thank you for providing that. I guess that's what happens when you have a cis person trying to define a term from trans vernacular. While the message of the song is positive, it's paired with a dark sound reminiscent of doom metal and 70s prog rock. It's also a protest song, raging against all the institutions and legislators pushing hate. Yeah, so it's a combination. It's protest love. It's love as protest, which is what we get into that a little bit in the lyrics here. We start off simply saying T for T and looping that through T for T for T for T. Then we hear George scream, "Because I want to be safe," followed by more T for T. Then they scream, "Because you are safe," or "you feel safe," followed by a lovely little instrumental. And during that instrumental, we hear, "Baby, if you just hold my hand, maybe everything will be okay." For the first time, maybe everything is going to turn out okay. I want to be alive. And then we hear "Hold my hand" during the little build up where I'm starting to hit the kick into 6/8. We hear "Kiss me, just to kiss me." Then we go full into the 6/8 jam and we hear "Let's watch the sunrise. You are my sunrise." And then after the build, taking us back into the opening jam, we hear "Being alive is an act of resistance. Being in love is an act of resistance. I don't want to be an act. I want to live. I want to love." And they're marching in the streets. I want to live. I want to love. And they're marching in the streets shouting trans liberation. Not trans eradication, trans liberation, not trans eradication. And then from there, we just get George just going off, just monologuing. They start monologuing, and it's the most epic thing that I've ever been a part of in a music project. And they say, the lyrics on Bandcamp are a little out of order just because they were kind of screaming this out, stream of consciousness, I mean. They say, "I have been here, and we have been here, and we have always been here, and we will continue to be here. And fuck you very much, Danielle Smith." If you're not aware of that name, Danielle Smith is the premier of Alberta. For my Americans in the audience, a premier is basically the Canadian equivalent of a state governor. They're the leader of a province. Danielle Smith specifically is a very conservative premier, has instituted and tried to institute a lot of very transphobic legislature And a lot of that has also had repercussions in Saskatchewan, the next province over. She's not a friend of ours. We don't much care for her. She was, in fact, in attendance at Trump's election. So, yeah, she doesn't have particularly great standing with the trans community. So, yeah, fuck you very much, Danielle Smith. And then George says, I am going to fall in love and be on a stage, and I'm going to hold my hands, my friends, and my hands so fucking close, and I'm going to make art and make a family, and I'm going to be happier than you could ever fucking imagine. And so is every trans person you're trying to wipe off the face of this goddamn planet. That line gives me goosebumps almost every time I hear it. It's just so, it's such a powerful line. This declaration of joy and happiness and life in the face of hatred and prejudice and discrimination, that despite that, we will be around and you cannot do a goddamn thing about it. And we will continue to be in community with each other, and that's gonna be what keeps us going. Musically, this is one of my favorite songs on the album. Lyrically, it's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's, you're not gonna believe this, one of my favorite songs on the album. I love playing it. I love hearing it. I love, like, this one's been doing freaking numbers on social media, so apparently lots of people are enjoying it. The release of this track, when we released that as a single, was a really, really big moment for us as a band. We got a lot of traction just from this particular song. But we're not done the album yet. It is time to move on to the other single that we recorded at Rain City Recorders with a lovely amount of production budget. The song's called Bela Lugosi Lives Again. The title is inspired by an old goth song called Bela Lugosi is Dead by, I think they're called the Bauhaus, or just Bauhaus. This one features a very, very dear person to me. You're gonna hear the musical talents of Rachel, my partner, who you have seen on the channel. We're recently got started on playing Vampire Therapist. Rachel plays violin, and for this particular song, our producer slash I would say our recording engineer thought it would be nice for this particular song to have a little bit of extra dramatic flair with some strings. And upon hearing that, I said, hi, I know someone that can play strings. So we had Rachel come into the studio, and this song is the result. Bela Lugosi Lives Again. Kind of hear them.
I'm going to wither one day. My body will malfunction, and my mind will deteriorate, and my skin becomes sunken. It will take
There they are.
an incalculable number
In the
of
shot.
seconds, all of which will inevitably end. And I will speak words in every permutation. My mouth is just shut in the air. This burial ground becomes overgrown. Could I stop this? Could I stay young forever? Could I make a deal with the devil? Never to die. Bite my neck for eternal life.
Nails it on that falsetto. And then we're building. clear out for a little bit.
And even though I am a terror,
There's Rachel again.
scare you. Getting old doesn't seem like horror if I do it with you. And even though I am a terror, I would never scare you. Getting old doesn't seem like horror if I do it with you.
Hell yeah. So, a funny thing about this song is that on one hand, I would consider this musically one of our more radio friendly songs. It's not particularly like explicit. We're not swearing a whole lot in this one particularly, and it's got very, very like generally pretty consistent like structure to it. Like it's pretty easy to kind of follow it through. On the other hand, this one doesn't really have a formal chorus at all. Like at all. All of the verses in this song are different. Every section is different. So there's not like a recurring lyrical sort of structure. Composition of it is what kind of keeps it feeling consistent. And then every section of it feels a little bit different. This one is also a love song. We recorded T for T and Bela Lugosi to be released as a single, as one single. So we released it as a single, but it was 2 tracks released on the same day. And we released it on Christmas Day because it just happened to be a Friday. It also just so happened this past year to be the release day of Nosferatu, which ended up being very, very thematically relevant for the songs that we decided to release. Because this one's about vampires. It's a love song about vampires, if you couldn't catch that. This is a love song. Joy is finally found between 2 broken people. It's like a breath of fresh air at the end of a long road. It's a thing that makes you feel immortal, untouchable. The fear of death, age, and a panic makes way for a transformation, represented by being turned into a vampire by the person you love. Finally, our protagonist is able to exist confidently within the world and contribute to relationships and friendships in a meaningful way. Which I think also plays in a cool way into, there's this long storied history in queer art where a lot of the time like queer people are demonized, monstricized, you might say, made monsters of. And so a lot of queer art has been kind of leaning into that and sort of subverting that, of being like, all right, if we're gonna be monsters, if we're gonna be demonized, we're gonna look fucking cool doing it. That's the same thing that Lil Nas X did when he released Montero. Same deal. He was doing it a little bit more literally, like demonizing, but it's a similar tradition that this song falls into, of like expressing queerness and queer love and queer life through the analogs of these legendary and mythical creatures. For a lot of the singles that we released for this album, M actually drew up art of various cryptids that kind of came along with as the album art, one of which being the Rougarou. But we also had Mothman, Mermaid or Siren, we had the Jersey Devil, just this whole gang of monsters with their own meanings and their own cultural sort of contexts to kind of act as complementary imagery and motifs to this album. And Bela Lugosi is Just sort of one of those monsters. That's also one of the reasons that we decided to call it Graveyard Smash. Obviously, a reference to the song Monster Mash, of this idea of just like a bunch of monsters having fun. You know, monsters comfortable with themselves, getting together for a party. Is very much imagery that we were kind of trying to evoke a little bit there. We'll come back to this because I'm getting into meta commentary on the whole album, and I'll save the rest of that till the end. Lyrics. I'm going to wither one day. My body will malfunction, and my mind will deteriorate, and my skin becomes sunken. It will take an incalculable number of seconds, all of which will inevitably end. And I will speak words in every permutation, my mouth sutured shut in the end. So again, we're starting the song with this sort of existential dread, this awareness of our mortality. Moving on to, and after the infinity of my collapse, a grave will be placed for my bones. My existence will persist for those left behind, still dying. Yet over a century, my tombstone decays like my body. Eroding like all of the others, this burial ground becomes overgrown. Followed by, could I stop this? Could I stay young forever? Could I make a deal with the devil? Never to die, never to fade away. Bite my neck for eternal life. So we have this offer for immortality, to be able to leave an eternal legacy, which then leads into alchemical mixtures and unholy pacts, experimental procedures and blasphemous acts. I walked back into your life and set your heart on fire, and so you gave me a name and turned me vampire. So the turning of vampire and that imagery of alchemical mixtures and pacts and procedures and acts, we again see this very like vampiric, gothic, like Vampire's Lab kind of imagery, kind of drawing a line to the way in which queerness and transness is often perceived by certain people. Those that demonize it see it as this blasphemous act, this risky experimental procedure of transitioning, taking these hormones, these alchemical mixtures and unholy pacts, and we turn that around of this person that comes back into your life and sets you on fire and gives you a verve for life again, and gives you this new name perhaps as you transition, and turns you vampire, or helps you become who you are. And then that leads us into the final part of the song, which is, even though I am a terror, I'll never scare you. Getting old doesn't seem like horror if I do it with you. Which is just adorable. It's just cute. There's still that like existential angst of like considering yourself a terror. There's still a little bit of that self-deprecation going on there, and it takes a long time to work that out. But there's this undeniable hope. Getting old is no longer scary. There's now this chance that like living longer might actually be kind of nice if I'm able to do it with this person or with these people around me. A great way to kind of end the album. I think if this were the final track on the album, I think it would work. But no, we have one more to cap things off. This was the other track that we recorded with Riley at Chum's studio. This is called Eschew The Meat, and it features just Adam. It is Adam singing and playing guitar. And I think a lot of the guitar parts, a lot of the lead guitar parts in this album, even though some of them were played by Adam, most of these parts were written by Cam. Those lead guitar bits, a lot of those solos were Cam. We don't really get a feel for Adam as his own guitarist. We don't really get a good idea of what Adam is really like as a guitarist. There's a few points, if you're really listening closely, where Adam has very much had no choice but to find his own parts in a lot of songs as we recorded them without Cam. But this song, Eschew The Meat, I think is a really, really great sample and representation of Adam's ability and style as a guitarist, and also just as a songwriter. And last thing I'm going to say before we play the track, I want you to visualize this song not being played by a bald man from Texas, that Adam is. I want you to instead visualize this song being sung and played by a skeleton.
I'm fucking Bones, a little skeleton being. No eyes, no face, just two bright glowing red wings. I'm fucking Bones, a little skeleton boy.
A little triplet like sweeps that he's done there.
To bleed. I go to the dentist, 'cause I can't hide my grin. And I don't need Viagra for a vast multitude of reasons. No guts, just glory. My own crown shines bright. I keep my tongue in a jar for the sake of a naughty night. Just fucking Bones. I drink wine from my own head, because I took it from my favorite enemy. But it spills on the floor. It spills on the floor.
Here we go. Ooh, here we go. We're getting into it now. Oh, the harmonics! Oh! Oh!
Just a fucking Bones. Eschew the meat. And build the self anew with whatever parts bring the happy.
Yeah. I mean, he frickin' ends it with the harmonic. I can't believe this. I can't believe it. I can believe it because I keep listening to it. I have had this album on loop, not just so that I'm familiar with our own music when we play it live. I love that song so much. And it is such a great little capstone to the whole album. It's musically very, very different from everything else, but it's this nice little like quiet moment of just kind of like, it's such a quirky way to recap what we've learned over the course of this album. We find this skeleton with a guitar, figuring out that you can just put yourself together with the parts that make you feel the happy, the parts that make you feel like you. I think that's a great kind of conclusion and resolution to this particular project of ours. This album is great. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the band for making this. It's not perfect. When we make our next album, I think we're definitely gonna make a concerted effort to mix or to record everything in hopefully at the same place, if not mixed by the same person. I think for the next while, I think we're done recording in the house. It's a hassle. It's definitely a process that I don't know that we have the spoons to go through again. So yeah, but that does mean that the nice thing about recording at your house is you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars to record at your house because you're already there. That's the nice thing about it. The unfortunate thing about it is everything else. Really proud of this album. It's nice to say that I am in a band that just released its debut album. I'm really excited for whatever comes up and comes into our path as a band in the next sort of while here. Very excited for what happens to the band as we sort of figure ourselves out as a 5-piece, as we get songwriting again. We spent so much time just playing shows over the last couple of years that we kind of stopped writing songs, to the point where the reason that like our last show, our album release, that was our first show in months, because we had told ourselves that we would not take any shows until the album was done, because playing shows was getting in the way of making music, and it was honestly kind of burning us out. If you're not making anything new and you're just practicing stuff, it kind of loses the sheen. So I'm really excited to kind of get back into that creative space of making new shit again. I will, even though all of these special thanks are in the album description on Bandcamp, I'm going to read this out just because, as a member of the band, I want to make these acknowledgements. Album photography was done by our friend Joey Chaos, who is also in a band called Joey Chaos and the Ghosts. They're a really fun band. Go check them out. A lot of the art design was George Finley. All the cryptid art was drawn by M. Meanwhile, Abyss, To the Wolves were recorded and mixed by Cam at what is being listed as Vamp Mansion, which is our house. Panic Room, Fever Dream, Wasted, If I Go Down to One, It's All Over, and Eschew The Meat were recorded, mixed, and mastered by Riley Valentine at Chom's Studio. T for T and Bela Lugosi, Lived Again were recorded and mixed by Matt Roach at Rain City Recorders. Meanwhile, Abyss, To the Wolves, T for T, and Bela Lugosi, Lived Again were mastered by Stu McKillop at Rain City Mastering. So some of those songs that Cam recorded, we had Stu master. Graveyard Smash is also a little bit dedicated to Dez. Dez was a fan of the band, specifically expressed to us that Panic Room meant a lot to them. They were a younger fan of ours that came out to one of our smaller shows earlier on, and we found out at some point last year that they had passed away, and that was a big hit. It was the first time that we had encountered something happening like that for us as a band, and so we wanted to put a little note in this album to Dez. Says, we hope you're enjoying the album wherever you are. Rachel Cruz, if you're watching this, Rachel, hey, I love you. Emily Ryan, who also helped Matt with recording. Cam Thiessen, my wonderful older sister. Steve Finley, who is Clay's dad, our bassist. So Clay's dad is a luthier, fixes guitars, and we would not have most of our setup in our practice room without Steve. The drum kit we have in there was donated by him. A lot of our sound equipment came from Steve. We would not be nearly as far in our career as a band without Papa Finley. Also, our host nations. This is a Canadian thing where we like to acknowledge that we were recording our stuff on unceded territory, specifically of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Big thanks to our families, both those of blood relation and those found. You know who you are. Every band that we've shared a stage with, we had a really hard time turning down shows during our hiatus, because every time we would get offered a show, it would be like, oh, we really like these people and we want to be able to play a show with them and give them and like fill out their bill. And then we realized if we gave an exception for every show just because we like the people, it would just be business as usual. All of the bands that we get asked to play with are people we like. They're friends. If you're watching this and you've been in one of the bands that we have played with during our time as a band, hey, we see you. We know who you know who you are. Big love. And to all our fans who have in fact amazed us with their support over the past 4 years of being Rougarou and the 1.5 years of being Goat Rodeo within that. We love you, and this would not exist without you. And that also comes from me. I don't know if you ended up finding my band through any of the times that I've mentioned it previously. If you find the band through this video, great. Thanks for checking us out. We really appreciate it. Shit's hard as you know, musicians that are strapped for cash and just trying to be in a band with a bunch of friends making it in this wild world. Especially a band that is not going to be touring the States anytime soon. We don't want to die or get like our passports taken away. So if you want Rougarou to tour the States, it's going to take a hot minute and a whole lot of changed legislature for that to happen. It's not that we don't want to tour to the States, but it is that we want to tour, that we don't want to tour to the States, but it's not because we don't want to play our music for you guys. It's because my bandmates don't want to die. So, yeah. But that brings an end to this video. Thank you so much for watching through the end if you did. If you were watching specific bits, let me know what your favorite bits of the album are. Let me know what specific parts of the album you wanted to hear my thoughts on. Very curious. If you've seen us live, I want to hear from you. If there are other, I'm still doing this as an album video, so if there are other albums that you want to see me listen to, let me know. If you have kind words to say to us as a band, I would love to hear them. If you have specifically unkind words to say, find something else to do with your time. It's not going to be worth your time, and it's certainly not going to be worth mine. There are better things for you to do than to be mean on the internet. There's so many better things that you could do with your time than that. So otherwise, if you liked the video, you can click the like button. You can leave your comments in the comments section below. If you haven't subscribed, now's a great time to do that. Interesting video for you to find the channel through, but hi, check it out. If you want to support the channel specifically, I've got a Fourth Wall site where you can buy merch, you can buy a member, it gets you perks, you can make a one-time donation if that's your speed. Anything and everything is hugely appreciated in that department. But yeah, for this video specifically, I'm going to highly recommend you check out the album, get the downloads on Bandcamp. We do have merch. A lot of it's handmade, not all of it, but a lot of it. And we would love to get it to you however we can. And yeah, until next time, thank you so much. Transliteration.
Marching in the streets, shouting,